Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology Podcasts with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost Here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more. Coming to Dallas, Texas, September 14th, 15th, and 16th, 2018, the Blockchain and Future Tech Expo. This is going to be a gigantic conference of over 5,000 people. We're going to be talking about blockchain and its applications. We're going to be talking about quantum computing, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and several other future technologies that are poised to and actually changing our lives as we speak. Here's why you should attend. As you may know, early adopters are the ones that investigated and profited from things like the gold rush in the 1800s, from the dot-com boom in the 1990s, from the internet boom in 2005, from the smartphone explosion in 2007, from the real estate boom that ended in 2008, and of course, from the Bitcoin boom that started in 2012. Early adopters act now. They don't wait till later. They go out west first. In their covered wagons, they find the biggest gold nuggets. If you consider yourself an early adopter and you want to find the biggest nuggets, then you owe it to yourself to attend this upcoming conference. Blockchain is going to affect how we control and store our medical data, how we send money around the world, how we bank, and more. But artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and cybersecurity will play a pivotal role in our lives as well. And that's why our next event, September 14th to the 16th at the Dallas Convention Center, is going to have not only 5,000 plus attendees, but will showcase blockchain, AI, cybersecurity, quantum computing, and more. You want to get in on the coming gold rush of future tech and opportunity as an early adopter. Don't be left out. To register, go to bftexpo.com. That's blockchainfuturetechexpo.com. Thank you.
Hello, this is Chris with the Future Tech Podcast. My guest today is Yonatan Sela with Younow. Hi, Yonatan.
Hi, Chris. It's great to talk to you.
Yeah, likewise. Give us a bit about your background.
Sure. My career has been mostly around startups, and particularly around media, video, and blockchain. And I've been mostly dealing with building companies. I also love investing, and these are kind of the two main things. I had some years in the military, in the Air Force, and afterwards I joined the founding team of a startup called TVinci, which is an online video or an OTT platform, where I spent 5 years as VP marketing and product strategy. And TVinci was it was a B2B company selling into broadcasters and pay TV operators, and it was acquired by Kaltura. I also co-founded another startup in a different field that didn't work out. And afterwards, I went on to study my master's, and after that, I joined Venrock, which is a great VC firm here in New York, where I live today. And at Venrock, I was focused on two things: digital media and video, which was my background for the 5 years prior to that, and also what was then called Bitcoin and blockchain verticals, which was kind of the first or the second wave of interest in blockchain by the tech industry. And I was really digging deep on these two things. That's how we found Younow, which was an early stage startup back then. We made the investment, but that's also when I got introduced to blockchain and bought my first tokens and then Bitcoin and started remained very interested in this field ever since. I spent a couple of years at Younow, which it was an incredible ride. We've amassed a really large community of about 40 million users and pioneered a lot of stuff in live streaming. And about a year ago, a little over a year, we kind of started the next phase of that journey, which is props. Props is really this combination of video and blockchain, my two passions. And that's basically the story. That's what we've been doing since, and it's been an incredible journey.
Very good. So video and blockchain, how are you bringing those together in props?
Right. So, Younow started, it was the first live video mobile app to gain traction in the U.S. And as I said, more than 40 million users and very high engagement. And that engagement of users spending about 45 minutes a day on average on the platform also translates into a flourishing digital economy. And Younow launched the first two-sided virtual goods economy in the U.S., where users can purchase digital goods on the one end using a digital non-cryptocurrency, and content creators can earn on the other side. So this was really the first intersection of video, gaming, and microtransactions for creators. And this always been our story, enabling creativity, interaction, and participation by the audience. And we've done that for a few years and saw some great success around that. But when blockchain came in, this has really been the opportunity to take this to the next level. So we've already been running a large community of content creators and users, and they've already been transacting in a digital economy with a virtual currency that we've created. With blockchain, we're able to launch Props, which is a decentralized ecosystem for digital video. And the idea with Props was to open up the network for developers to build on top of it, to have a shared kind of video library and shared data to a large extent, and replace the gameplay token with a crypto token, which means it can be taken across multiple apps, which means users can hold it and control it, which means it is not controlled by us as a company, but it is part of a network, the Props network, which is much more of a public utility network for digital media, rather than a proprietary service with one tax collector, which is the way most digital media networks are run today.
Okay. So can you give us some specific examples about how these shared videos and the creators are affecting change, or what benefit that they're gaining from that?
Absolutely. So, the idea in general of the internet today is that ultimately the business model of the web comes down to companies that are collecting data and protecting that data as their own private data, and then monetize that data. That's what Facebook does. That's what Google does. And that's what most of the successful web companies or internet companies that we know today, that's their model. But the idea is that all of these business models basically depend on the fact that the data is closed and is owned by that network. With crypto and with kind of cryptocurrencies and with a blockchain, you're able to decentralize that control of the data and open up the network, and effectively making that data that is and the content that is created by users, consumed by users, that users are curating, you're able to take all of that data and enable multiple different developers to access it, to build apps on top of it, and to use it. And that way, you kind of break up those monopolies that were created on the internet. Specifically with Props, the idea is to create a video network that behaves according to this logic. So the idea is that you can create, content creators can create videos, and consumers can consume these videos, and developers can build applications to create different flavors and types of videos, or consume different flavors and types of videos. And the idea is that every single entity in this tokenized network uses the token in order to do certain things and gets rewarded in the token for adding value. So instead of a world in which you have a Facebook or a YouTube and these type of companies who've amassed hundreds of billions of dollars in enterprise value that ultimately stays with this tax collector that manages the network, instead of that, you can have a model where the network is public and everybody gets rewarded exactly based on their contribution to the network, algorithmically, in a fair way, in a measurable way. And there's no possibility of anyone to take advantage of this network just for their own proprietary use and for their profit maximization and need.
So many more people benefit from the current model, as you mentioned, like with Facebook or other similar services. So I'm curious, you mentioned from the content developer side to the consumer side, how do you see developers building on those experiences specifically with props?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and first of all, there's a lot of use cases remain to be seen. I can tell you about the first application that's already been launched on the props network is an application called Rise, and Rise is an application that utilizes the props infrastructure, and basically it is a many-to-many video application. So it is an interactive video application where users can come together, broadcast, chat with friends, consume content together, and meet new people, and also broadcast around various themes. And Rise and earnings in Rise are essentially working and will continue to evolve towards working by the model that I just described. And we chose kind of this first use case on the ecosystem to be around this participatory video, live video, because this is obviously an area that we know very well, and we know very well how to manage a virtual economy with in-app purchases, which is kind of the model that Rise is based on. And that's kind of the first app on the ecosystem. It leverages both the video technology, the many-to-many video technology, as well as the currency. So that's the idea there. It's a little hard to explain just like that, but imagine a world where everybody can be on camera, consume content, connect with other users, and create content together with them with very simple and intuitive drag and drop, kind of like think of a Facebook live stream, but instead of just one person being live and everybody else just writing in the chat, imagine both that person and everybody in the chat is live, so everybody can be on camera, everybody can talk to other people, everybody can get a like, and ultimately everybody can also earn. So that's it creates very different dynamics, and it's a very cool use case that is pretty new.
Yeah, that definitely has a lot of implications. I think about and just watching a movie or a television show or any other media, the attention span that we have is relatively limited. So changing from screen to screen, I totally agree. Yeah, and so seeing that happen in a live sense, where it's you're having a conversation and it's automatically redirected over to another person, that just is a very compelling idea.
Yeah, I agree, and it's still early days for it, and there are multiple potential implications for this idea, and we'll have to see what developers want to build on top of it. We've already been approached by over 100 developers who want to build on top of this network with all sorts of cool ideas. We ourselves thought of a bunch of different ideas. We see 2 additional apps that are being developed these days with very different use cases than the basic Rise use case that I mentioned. And some of these things include social gaming, so the type of stuff that would require people to be face-to-face to play a social game, like a party game. Or other examples, not necessarily stuff that is being built right now, can be live game shows, TV-like shows where the audience can just be at home, or you can think of karaoke, or you can think of just a type of YouTube where people can watch content together. So there's many, many implications of this technology where you marry a strong video infrastructure with an open system that runs on a token and that incentivizes the various stakeholders.
Now, with video, there's a lot of bandwidth obviously behind, with the data that's being used. What kind of situations are you running into with dealing with bandwidth and distributing the video in real time without the lag?
Yeah, so that's a little less related necessarily to crypto. This is more of a technical expertise of ours. We've been dealing with live video for 6 years. And that's, over the years, we've moved between different technologies, from Flash through all sorts of different setups that we've created, ultimately landing on a unique permutation or implementation on top of WebRTC, which is a very strong technology for low latency, good quality, high reliability video in real time. And so we've taken the basic WebRTC and we've built on top of it for, I'd say, about almost 2 years to reach kind of this level of smooth many-to-many video that we currently have. And now taking that and making it available as a platform for everybody to be able to build on top of, ultimately open sourcing it, is another another big challenge that we are dealing with right now as we're seeing additional apps being built on top of that same infrastructure. And God is in the details there of how you optimize it and make it good, but it's certainly many thousands of man hours went into that.
All right. So what's on your company roadmap for the next 12 months?
So for us, this is a fascinating transition from really more of a standard quote-unquote startup that is operating under the standard model that startups operate on, which is, you go out to the world, you start building a product, building your team, raising money, getting users, getting a revenue model in place, et cetera, and then trying to scale the business. And that is one model that most of the startups in the world follow. And then right now, over the past year, we've been in this transition from the mindset of a company to a mindset of a fully open network that is a public utility network that is not controlled by us. We are just a kind of a founding partner, if you will, or the first developer on this network that has a lot of responsibility to create at least the basic foundation for other developers to later build on top of and both build additional infrastructure and also just build applications on top of the infrastructure that is there. And this transition it's very hard to explain how deep it is. It is how you think of the economics, how you think of the architecture of the system, how you think of your own role. You move from a world of one company necessarily competing with almost all other companies in its space to a model where you are all you want is for other companies that are potential competitors to join the same network to strengthen the network and grow the network as a whole. And that's part of the beauty of crypto, and that's a huge part of this transition. More specifically, for us, it means that we're very focused on building the protocol, building the foundation, building APIs to enable people to access some of the shared infrastructure, and also getting developers to join this ecosystem and build additional applications on top of what we're doing. So that's the big part of the effort. The other side of the effort is just to take an existing application that we've launched, the Rise app, and grow it as an app in and of itself. And those are two separate efforts, obviously related, but one of them is more of a standard growing an application and the community, etc. And the other is kind of growing this open network.
Okay. So what do you see kind of in the near-term future for developments with video and blockchain, maybe not just in your company, but just in general?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are trying to bridge this gap. There's two main types of efforts being done in the video space when it comes to blockchain. One of them is on the infrastructure level, and that's when we're talking about companies like or projects like LivePeer, which is trying to do decentralized streaming of live video, or a company like Sela or Sela token, and a bunch of other companies that are focused on how to get the video, kind of like think of a decentralized CDN or decentralized content delivery network of sorts. It's a bit of a simplification, but that's kind of to put that in one bucket. The other bucket is more similar to what we're doing here, which is around creating decentralized applications that go all the way to the end user, to a standard consumer. And those types of applications, the two types of applications face different problems. One of them, and I think the challenge in general for blockchain overall has been to create applications that are really used by people that are outside of the core, super dedicated, savvy blockchain users who are usually, the hodlers and the true believers of blockchain. And part of our mission, and I think others in this space, is how to create products that appeal to a wider, set of users, some of them without kind of that level of savviness and passion for blockchain, who are just interested in consuming a digital media content or video on their mobile devices. And this challenge that I think is shared across many in the industry is how to, on the one hand, maintain the advantages of the blockchain, and on the other hand, or benefit from the advantages of the blockchain, and on the other hand, also create a user experience that is, on par with some of the regular centralized services that are out there. And bridging that gap is very difficult, and that's one of the key challenges that I think many in this industry are facing. So that's one. And another interesting one to point out is, again, when you start dealing with consumers and you're dealing with a cryptocurrency that in many cases fluctuates in its value or is foreign to a lot of people, that presents another challenge in how you get users to trust that cryptocurrency, use it, not be concerned by the mere fact that a cryptocurrency is involved, but rather embrace it and understand the incredible benefits that it gives to everybody on the net.
Those are interesting points on both sides. What do you think it takes to bridge that gap, especially with getting the consumer trust?
In my view, it requires two things, and the future will tell us what's been the secret sauce there. But our approach and my personal view is that first, there is always, life and business decisions are so much about creating a balance. And I think what, in my view, it is rarely the case where we're being an all-in purist and what brings the best results. I'm a believer that you need to make some sacrifices and have more of a process oriented approach, or view this whole thing as an evolutionary process where it is fine to leverage some of the fantastic stuff that the current centralized infrastructure and centralized digital space offers. So, for example, it's probably useful to use a device like the iPhone, and it's probably useful to use a centralized application store, which is the App Store, or probably useful to utilize for some activities, for example, the video delivery stack, some centralized components, because currently the decentralized alternatives are not up to speed and will not enable you to create a good enough user experience. So I think that that is one, to have a practical approach to decentralization where you pick and choose the elements that are most important in order to achieve the overall goal. In our case, for example, the overall goal is to democratize and open up the digital media space, particularly in video, and we keep that as the goal. And we want to fairly compensate all the different stakeholders that contribute to the success of that network. So we focus on these things. And for example, we are at the moment less concerned with censorship resistance on the very basic level, and we're more concerned about just not having control of content distribution in the hands of just one or two companies. But we're not dealing right now with kind of government level censorship resistance as a key design criteria. So that, for example, has some implications on how our architecture works and how we build the system. So that's just one example, and that was number one, which is a practical approach to decentralization. The second thing is about just being I think the blockchain space, for the most part, has been built by developers and for developers, and by developers and for a very savvy type users. So I think the second thing, in short, is a user-oriented or a friendly user experience type products and approach to building products that I think is Silicon Valley has been incredible at, and blockchain world hasn't been focused on, probably for the right reasons. But I think now, as we look for kind of more mainstream adoption of the technology as the next thing for 2018, I think that's going to be required.
Yeah, I went to a conference recently, and one of the main speakers mentioned exactly what you're saying. With the key to widespread adoption, you're reaching a large audience, so you have to make it appealing to them, and bridging the gaps between blockchain technology and something that's centralized, especially when you're dealing with videos. You have to use the thing that's going to make it work the best for the consumers and the thing that's going to appeal the most to them to survive. And I think, I think that's great that you're doing that and headed in that direction. So it's been really great chatting with you today, Yonatan. I wonder if you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience, and maybe how people can best contact you and find out more.
Sure. So to contact me, you can just write to me on Twitter. It's my full name, Yonatan Sela, or on LinkedIn, where I'm a bit more active, and or you can just check out our stuff at propsproject.com and follow our Twitter. So I think the last thing I'd say is that if you are a developer excited about building a blockchain application with kind of a lot of the stack being ready for you and a lot of the infrastructural issues being solved for you, and you're interested in potentially leveraging props and join this ecosystem and build on top of it, we would really love to chat, and I encourage you to write to me. My email is Yonatan, my first name, at Younow.com, or you can just sign up on our website in the developer section, and we'd love to talk to you.
And just to make sure, that's Yonatan, Yonatan, correct?
Correct, at Younow.com.
Very good. Yonatan, again, it's been great talking to you and hearing about your viewpoints, especially of the things yet to come. So thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's been a real pleasure, and I hope we'll get to chat in a few months and see where all that led to.
Yeah, definitely. Yonatan Sela with Younow. And we'd like to thank, of course, our listeners for tuning in to the Future Tech Podcast. We will catch you here next time.
Coming to Dallas, Texas, September 14th, 15th, and 16th, 2018, the Blockchain and Future Tech Expo. This is going to be a gigantic conference of over 5,000 people. We're going to be talking about blockchain and its applications. We're going to be talking about quantum computing, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and several other future technologies that are poised to and actually changing our lives as we speak. Here's why you should attend. As you may know, early adopters are the ones that investigated and profited from things like the gold rush in the 1800s, from the dot-com boom in the 1990s, from the internet boom in 2005, from the smartphone explosion in 2007, from the real estate boom that ended in 2008, and of course, from the Bitcoin boom that started in 2012. Early adopters act now. They don't wait till later. They go out west first. In their covered wagons, they find the biggest gold nuggets. If you consider yourself an early adopter and you want to find the biggest nuggets, then you owe it to yourself to attend this upcoming conference. Blockchain is going to affect how we control and store our medical data, how we send money around the world, how we bank, and more. But artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and cybersecurity will play a pivotal role in our lives as well. And that's why our next event, September 14th to the 16th at the Dallas Convention Center, is going to have not only 5,000 plus attendees, but will showcase blockchain, AI, cybersecurity, quantum computing, and more. You want to get in on the coming gold rush of future tech and opportunity as an early adopter. Don't be left out. To register, go to bftexpo.com. That's blockchainfuturetechexpo.com. Thank you. You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.